Well, there's no end to the fringe fury against Amir Khan's brand new film PK. Outfits out there, right-wing outfits, vandalizing theatres, tearing up movie posters and loudly calling for a ban on the film, for they think that the movie is an insult to Hinduism and to Hindus everywhere, which they obviously claim to protect. They claim to be the custodians of Hindus everywhere. On to the point tonight, we debate, are these Bajrang Dals and Hindu Mahasabhas the new custodians of Hindu religion? And should Hindus across the world simply bow to their diktats? Are they justified in taking the law into their own hands? And if they're not taking the law into their own hands, are they guilty of not reining in fringe elements or simply looking the other way as some members of theirs actually indulge in these unsavory and violent activities? And if yes, then who exactly has given them the license to do so? Amidst these questions, the big question is, because it's being asked out there, perhaps, will the Prime Minister himself allow the fringe to continue to run amok and dictate their ideology through violent means? Remember, we're making a distinction here on To The Point. Criticism is fine, protests are fine, but where can that line be drawn? Certainly, it has to be before physical violence that endangers others. Joining us today, Dr. Rakesh Ranjan, spokesperson for the Akhil Bharat Hindu Mahasabha. He's with us here in the studio. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Shaina NC, spokesperson and member of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Rahul Dholakia, well-known filmmaker, joins us live as well. And Harish Bijur, brand guru and commentator, joining us live from Bangalore. In a short moment from now, we'll also be joined by Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi of the Congress Party. He's a little delayed. He'll be with us in just a moment. Dr. Ranjan, I want to come to you first. Here on Headlines Today, I want to clarify that we've seen government after government, either directly indulge in censorship or look the other way when, activity like this actually happens. But I want to talk specifically about PK and what's happening right now. Does the Hindu Mahasabha, Dr. Ranjan, endorse in any way what's happening out there, the activities of members of the Bajrang Dal and the VHP? All of these groups have had their say about the problems they have with their film. But do you in any way endorse the manner in which they're stating their protests?
Well, in democracy, everybody has a right to protest. As far as Hindu Mahasabha is concerned, I'm not an official spokesperson for Bajrang Dal or RSS or for that matter any other Hindu organization. As far as Hindu Mahasabha is concerned, we decided that we must review this film in legal way.
Yes.
And we formed a committee to look into the Indian Cinematography Act 1952, Cinematography Rules 1983, vis-a-vis the way Censor Board has given clearance to this movie, because this is not a new.
Which is the legal way to do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is no end to from this movie. This is not the beginning of insult of Hinduism, and this is not the end of.
But sir, there are people out there who are watching, and the reason I'm asking you a specific question is, you say that in a democracy people have a right to protest. Just look at those pictures on your screen, Dr. Ranjan. You've got people with lathis, breaking up ticket counters, attacking cinema halls. These are privately owned cinema halls. They don't belong to the censor board. They don't belong to Amir Khan. They don't belong to Rajkumar Hirani. Is this acceptable to you? I'm very curious to know.
Well,
because the Hindu Mahasabha is a respectable organization. That's why I ask you, would you endorse activity like this?
Normally we don't endorse such things, and they are not member of Hindu Mahasabha, most of them. A. B is, at the same time, you have to look into what is the reason for this. Why sentiments are so against this particular movie, and who are the people responsible for that within Censor Board? Why, since there are adequate provision in Indian Cinematography Act to review on sensitive matter, particularly related to a religion. And as far as I know about this act and the procedure in Film Censor Board, that is Film Review Board, they have they have to have at least 3 members comment on religious issues or the socially sensitive issues. Who were they who saw this and cleared? What was the basis of that clearance? And why now Leela Samson is saying that there is no question of reviewing this movie?
I get your point. You're talking about the specifics of how you plan to go about it. I'd like to ask you just one final specific question before I bring the others into this discussion, Dr. Ranjan. Why doesn't the Hindu Mahasabha, I know you're not concerned with the VHP or the Bajrang Dal, you're separate entities, separate organization. Why doesn't the Hindu Mahasabha send out a message or a signal saying violent means to register your protest are unacceptable. We're going to go the legal route. Join us legally. Let's take on this film legally. Put down your lathis. Why doesn't the Hindu Mahasabha, which I'm sure people from the Bajrang Dal and the VHP would listen to what the Hindu Mahasabha has to say?
Let me clarify. As far as Hindu Mahasabha is concerned, in most of the cases, we go for the legal protest or the legal way.
How about a signal? I'm asking a specific question. How about a message so that at least the violence
we conducted a meeting today. In fact, our national president, Mr. Kaushik, and myself, along with other senior members and our advocates, we conducted a meeting today itself to look into this matter, then what is going on and how the country, how the feeling of Hindus are getting hurt. So we are looking into this issue, and we will definitely come up with you.
No, I hope that you're looking into it, but I hope that you'll send out an unmistakable message. Okay, I want to bring in Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, senior leader of the Congress, who's also with us. Dr. Singhvi, is this perhaps the time to ask the question? Why doesn't the PM, the Prime Minister, senior leadership of the government, both in the in the states where this is happening, also at the centre, to step in and contain these elements?
I think it's the single most relevant question, but this question arose more than 5-6 months ago when the BJP was sworn in. Just give me a minute or a minute and a half, I won't take long. I think this is one of the most alarming things happening under the nose of this government and the Prime Minister. It is actually, were it not tragic, I would consider it comic. I have seen the film, but that's a very minor point. It's clearly a film castigating fake godmen. And real spirituality comes only when you eliminate fake godmen. But more than that, it is the most serious, frontal, direct assault on freedom of speech and expression on the completely syncretic and pluralistic culture of our country. And I think it's very important that you read between the lines as to what's happening for the last 7 months. A whole agenda of a certain extremist fringe, call it the lunatic fringe right wing, is trying to promote a very divisive agenda. And the Prime Minister's silence day by day, not only on this issue, but for the last 6 months, is becoming more and more eloquent by the minute.
Okay.
This Prime Minister, a wink and a nod or a small shake of his head, he's supposed to be such a strong orator, a strong Prime Minister, will stop everything. But he doesn't speak.
Okay.
And he's our Prime Minister. He's not the Congress or the BJP Prime Minister. This is something which is at the very basis of the fundamental ethos and spirit of our constitutional culture.
Okay.
And if he doesn't step in and his silence remains eloquent more and more, it's extremely distressing. It is something deplorable.
Okay, let me get a reaction in from Shaina NC. I don't want to make this a BJP Congress affair. Shaina, like Dr. Singhvi said, he's our Prime Minister. He's not the BJP's Prime Minister. Do you think, it's an irrelevant question, Shaina? I mean, the BJP has said, this is, the censor board has passed the film. This is now a law and order issue, for centers to, for the states to take care of. It has nothing to do with Prime Minister's, opinion on this matter is irrelevant. He doesn't need to comment on anything. Or do you believe that there is a fundamental issue here and the Prime Minister must step in and send out a message, perhaps because that's the only thing that can actually stop what's going on the streets out there, Shaina?
I'd like to ask Dr. Singhvi, was the Prime Minister elected to do his job, which is governing a country as diverse as India, or was he elected to comment on every opinion in a country as diverse as India, which has over 1 billion opinions for 1 billion issues? Now, coming to this film, clearly there is a censor board that goes through the film, the merits of the film, and then it decides to give it a certificate or not. If there are citizens in this country, irrespective of which background they come from, which allegiance they follow, which sentiment they subscribe to, they have the option to go and file a petition in a court of law, and then it is for the judiciary to opine as to whether it is hurting religious sentiment, whether it is an expression of
which
freedom,
is what Dr. Ranjan just said, they're planning the legal route,
or whether it's vulgarity, whether there is a fine line between humor and somebody's sensitivity. That
Shaina,
is for the courts to talk about.
Just a small interjection.
As far as the BJP goes, and as far as, just let me make one quick point.
Yeah.
As far as the BJP goes and the administration goes, I don't think it is the job of the government to have an opinion on public opinion. public opinion can be expressed. If there is a law and order situation, clearly our government will respond and react accordingly.
Okay, Shaina, I don't know if you know, but the Mumbai police has just said, I'm going to play out that bite in just a moment from now. The Mumbai police has said that they're going to be scrutinizing the contents of this film. So, you know, it's a bit of a tricky affair now. The Mumbai police has gotten involved. They're saying they're going to scrutinize the contents of the film. Does that mean that the censor board hasn't done its job? You know, where does the government actually step in? It's become a bit of a, you know, it's gone out of control. I mean, there's no command and control as far as the film is concerned. I want to bring in the others. Dr. Ranjan, Dr. Singhvi, I'm going to come to you in just a moment. I want to bring the other two panelists also in before we expand. Rahul Dholakia, you've made films in the past. You know, you've made films, you know, like Parzenia, which have been controversial. They've faced bans. They've faced mob fury on the streets as well. Are you surprised in any way about what you're seeing happening with these attacks on theatres and not very much happening, the violence actually intensifying as the days go by?
I'm not so much surprised at the attacks, but I'm surprised by the frequency of the attacks in recent times. Also, I mean, I'd like to ask as a filmmaker, where do we go? I mean, we've got a censor board. We got to get that approved, our films approved from that. And if at every stage we have to go, like right now you're saying that the police has to see this film.
So do we need to drag the Prime Minister into it? I mean, is that what it is? Is it like a political issue? What will the Prime Minister's message actually do? Or do you think what Dr. Singhvi says is correct, that it's the most relevant question right now and only the Prime Minister's message, you know, not his eloquent silence, will actually mean something here?
You know, my belief is that this is not a question that needs to be addressed by the Prime Minister at all. The Prime Minister is a busy man and there are 20 different things possibly happening.
Right.
But let me put it this way. I'm not sure whether my foot is on the side of PK or foot is against PK or the foot is going to be in my mouth.
Yeah.
But I'd like to intellectually describe the situation. You know, if I build the Hindu pyramid in this country, there are about 900 million people out there. And right at the top of the pyramid are the intellectuals and possibly around this table. And in the middle of the pyramid are the middle rung people. And at the bottom are the people out there on the street. Now, different people will react to PK differently.
Right.
Intellectuals will appreciate it. Intellectuals have a sense of humor. The middle class is undecided. But the people at the bottom of the pyramid can be easily catalyzed into action.
Right.
And I think that's exactly what's happening. So I think every religious party, every political leader who belongs to a religious formation needs to make out an appeal. The appeal should not come from Mr. Modi, but it needs to come from the head of every responsible Hindu party at large.
Dr. Singhvi, your comment to Shaina, and then I'm going to bring Dr. Ranjan back in.
There are a lot of issues. I think it's clearly wrong to suggest that a Prime Minister to make a statement when this kind of vandalism goes. No, because he speaks a lot when he wants to speak, but he doesn't speak at all when there are clear involvement of those which are considered part of the allied organizations of the BJP. These are not, this is
but
not...
Dr. Singhvi, do you think the Prime Minister saying something will make a difference?
Who is the police? I'm asking.
Why would you have
Let's decide that after he says it. Let's decide it. Why does the Prime Minister say, why does the Prime Minister speak on 1,000 things? Why does the Prime Minister speak on micromanagement?
To the Constitution
Can I complete, please? I didn't interrupt anybody.
Yeah, complete your point, sir.
Why does the Prime Minister speak? Why does the Prime Minister speak on hundreds of micro things? Why does he exhort people to do things that way, come to office at 9 o'clock, do this and that? Does he not think it important enough that divisive agendas followed by those who are allied to his party are breaking up situations in this country? It's obvious, because there is either silence means acquiescence, sympathy,
Shaina,
or he's too constrained to speak. That's the short point.
Shaina, does
the Prime Minister who's so eloquent to speak on everything under the sun.
Shaina, what is the BJP's official position? Is the BJP also saying that everyone has a right to protest, or are you going to unequivocally condemn, incidents of physical violence that we're seeing happen every day and actually intensify? Is it just a no-holds-barred kind of issue, or are you going to continue to distance yourself from it?
These are not people who are going to court. They are people who are vandalizing on the streets. They have not gone and got
We've got one person here who says that they're going to go to court.
Who is the police?
Shaina, what is the BJP's official position? Is there a categorical condemnation of what's happening?
Compromise. Shiv, there is no compromise vis-a-vis any kind of vandalism, and I don't think our government is going to be soft on any accord. But if the censor board gives the clearance to a particular film, it is not the prerogative of the court of law. If you expect the Prime Minister of India to be only speaking, I feel very, very sad to hear that the Congress has only done that. They haven't even done that in the past. But having said that, I think they have a stereotypical agenda, which is to rope in Narendra Modi into every debate.
Okay.
Mr. Modi is the Prime Minister who is here to do his job.
Yeah, okay.
And he is only working 18 hours towards it. So if his counterparts report at 9 o'clock in the morning, which has not happened in the past, or for that matter even 8 a.m., I think it's something that we need to applaud. The fact that he is working towards his mission and not getting deflected.
I want to get into a substantive part. I want to get into a substantive part of what Dr. Rakesh Ranjan said. Dr. Rakesh Ranjan said, you know, like one of our panelists talked about.
Is something that needs to be complemented.
Okay, point made, China. Dr. Rakesh Ranjan mentioned that you know, he and his colleagues at the Hindu Mahasabha are looking at the possibilities of taking the legal route. I tried to ask him a direct question about whether a message would be sent out. I'd like to ask you again, Dr. Ranjan, you know, let's just put aside whether, you know, the Congress wants the Prime Minister to say something, the BJP says it's not relevant at all. Some of our other panelists agree or disagree. So I'm saying if a legal route is what is necessary, why are you waiting for it? Why don't you file a petition in the court?
No, we are in the process of filing the petition. It takes time to review everything, prepare a legal draft and approach the court.
It's been 11 days, sir. It's been 11 days.
Doesn't matter. 11 days is not even sufficient time to look into that. B, I would like to ask from government's representative, that is Saina, that if there is a structural deficiency in censor board and the existing law which was drafted way back in 1952, then why government is waiting? Why they are not going to review the law and censor board's actions?
That gets into a bit of a technicality at this point about how the censor board functions and the act itself.
That is the reason, that is the reason of all this, what is happening throughout the country. Film after film, after every 1 or 2 months.
I'm not saying,
Dr.
Ranjan, I'm not saying that's not a point. You definitely have a point. All I'm saying is that's beyond the scope of this particular debate.
No, we would definitely like to demand from government.
Shaina, do you have a response to that? That there's a problem with the censor board?
You'll have to repeat the question because the audio is very faint.
If there is a structural deficiency in your functioning of censor board, or there is a structural deficiency in the law, why don't you review that? Because every month we see such kind of things happening from one film to other film, and then it is not going to stop here. There will be some other film next month, and the same thing will be repeated.
Let her answer.
Well, I think that, you know, there's a thin line between what one thinks is humorous or freedom of expression.
No, it's not like that. It's not like that. We tried to review it and we found that at several junctures the process has been violated.
If we're going to question the decision of the censor board, then this is something which goes into an elaborate debate, which I'm sure that if you feel so, you could highlight with our Information and Broadcasting Ministry. But having said that, there is an open forum of seeking legal help and going to the court if you feel that you have been wronged, or if you feel that the censor board has even not acted in accordance to what you believe is a sentiment. My point is, in a country as diverse as India, you're bound to have multiple opinions, and if you feel that the government has to sit on judgment as to what is right and what is wrong and which side they are on, that makes the government extremely partisan. That's not the job and role of the government. The government is here to deliver on good governance.
I want to get quick final comments.
To decide,
so do you think this is the outcome of good governance? What is happening in the streets?
We're entirely out of time. I want to leave the last word with Rahul Dholakia because he's the only filmmaker on this panel tonight. Rahul Dholakia, it's been many years since you made Parzenia. What goes through your mind when you see, you know, these scenes out there in the streets against films? Does it make you cynical? Does it not surprise you? Does it make you upset? Or does it really not matter anymore? This is just the way filmmakers have to live in this country.
I think it's sad that filmmakers have to live this way. But I think that somebody needs to be accountable for this. You know, because just vandalizing, threatening, not allowing films to be screened, we have a censor board, whether you like it, you don't like it. But if somebody has to be accountable for it. And till those people who are disrupting screenings pay for it, nothing is going to change.
All right, nothing is going to change. There needs to be accountability for specific actions. We can broaden our reactions to what's happening out there on the streets, but at the end of the day, there are crimes being committed. Who's going to look after that? Is it going to be the government? Is it going to be the police? Does the censor board have to have its own accountability? Is it a political issue? Is it a civil issue? Well, the Hindu Mahasabha here on To The Point tonight has said that they're going to pursue the legal route, which is very welcome. The legal route is what is necessary, as Shaina also said. If you've got a problem, go to the courts and do it. Don't go about breaking up cinema halls and damaging equipment and threatening the lives of ordinary citizens. We're going to wrap up that debate. Thanks very much, Shaina and gentlemen, for joining us on